They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
So we, eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful friends, tonight on Rogueways we have a special celebratory independence-loving time for everyone as we chat with someone who is very much aligned with the middle path and the way of the rogue warrior, someone who dedicates much time to both the pursuit of the truth and genuine spirituality while also decrying the traps of the cult of personality and other groupthink aspects of the new age deceptions. He is a badass warrior for truth, a fearless thinker and speaker, an accomplished author of many books, and the host of his YouTube channel, and a healer, and a guide for many. I actually feel like I'm looking at my twin counterpart in male form as I look through your work, Tony. But tonight we have Tony Sayers here. Welcome to Rogueways. Tony, it's good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Lindsay. That's quite an introduction. So I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm down with anyone who's anti this kind of fake spiritual scene that we've been presented with. Yeah, so nice to be here.
Yeah, it's so good to have you. It's actually, maybe we should have done it on a Thursday and you could be on Middle Path, where the whole point of the show is to get into spiritual practices and aspects practically while like ripping away all of that crappy new age, you know, trapping. So, but today is just as good as any. And just a shout out to all the listeners out there. You guys are loved. I am grateful for your support and your presence here. If you go to the site just for today, you can use the code INDEPENDENCE to get a discount on any of the orgone there. And Tony, my pointless question of the episode for you is, do you love anything about the United States? And if so, what do you love about it?
Oh, I love the people. That's the number one thing. I mean, I haven't spent a long time there. Actually, frustratingly, this year, or last year actually, before the hoax came along, I was going to go and do some traveling around some of the states, and I was really looking forward to it, and you know, meeting some people, and I've got a lot of connections there, a lot of people, you know, who are aware and awake of about things, and yeah, and then the hoax came and all of that stuff, and so I don't know, hopefully I'll get there one day, but yeah, a lot of my clients are from the States. My work really resonates with a lot of you guys up there, so and yeah, I just think I have a lot of respect for the awakened souls there, because you know that they're coming after the States big time, first of all, really, aren't they? And you know, if America falls, then the whole world will fall. So you guys are really kind of, we're pinning a lot of hopes on you. So a lot of strong souls up there. So yeah, I would say you're asking me what I like about the States. Well, it would be the people. The only time I went was when I was 14 years old to Florida and Disney, and we all know about Disney. So yeah.
You saw the worst of the worst, really. No, Florida. Yeah, exactly. Florida's cool though.
I blame my parents for that.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. You know, and a lot of people who haven't heard a lot of good things about the United States, which is actually hard to do when you live here. We're very much expected to hate this country and tear it down. But a lot of people expect that people around the world look at us in hatred as well. And I think it's surprising to a lot of people to hear people who don't live here and aren't from here praise this country, because it is the opposite of what we're told. So thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome. Well, I take everyone on face value as well. There's good and bad people and stupid people, and you know, in every corner of the world. I've done a lot of traveling in my life. Very, very lucky to have done so. And yeah, you know, it's. But in general, I like, and of course, a lot of you guys, getting decent food. I mean, everything's GMO there, so I mean, you're really up against it. So you can't even. It's really difficult to get a meal that's not poisoned.
Yeah.
So we have to take that into account if we're being critical of people in the States as well. They've really gone all out to dumb you down and attack you, and so yeah, I see the bigger picture. So
It's a really good point. It's funny. It's actually my boyfriend was the one who first told me that like people from other countries come here and are like, "Wait, you call this food? Like what?
yeah,
What are you guys eating?" And I've traveled a lot as well, and it's definitely like realer, more local, like a lot less, GMO and prepackaged sort of stuff. It tended to be, but I never really thought of that until he said that, and then now you're saying it again, and I just don't think that people here realize that,
yeah,
we're suffering
it's
so much.
yeah, it's huge because what and probably your listeners know when you eat genetically modified food, it genetically modifies you and it changes your DNA. And I mean, the food. I'm from the UK. I'm in Mexico, but the food in the UK is not great. But it's not genetically modified, and yeah, it's a big problem. And I remember I was flying. Where was I flying to? I went to Costa Rica or Mexico, and I had to stop at Florida in Fort Lauderdale, and I got off at the airport, and I was really hungry, and I was a little bit wary about the food, but I was so hungry, so I got this pizza, and I swear, like for days afterwards, my stomach wasn't right. I mean, probably the base was just didn't. And I was like, oh my God, those poor souls in that country. This is all their, it's pretty difficult to find organic, and so I hear anyway. So, yeah, when you're eating all of that, it's very difficult to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. It was probably the glyphosate. It was just saturated and it was like exploding cells all throughout your digestive tract. Like it's
Yeah, I mean, it was going wild. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And even the organic food we have, I don't think most of it is organic. The FDA has just destroyed that entire process too.
Oh,
so.
this will make you laugh. I saw on Facebook today someone had posted a picture of some carrots in a bag from. We have a big store, like you have Walmart.
Yeah.
We have in the UK. It's called Tesco's, right?
Yes.
So they posted a bag of carrots, and it had product grown in Chernobyl.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're selling carrots grown in Chernobyl in the UK right now.
They're like, trust us, this is a death zone that's been ruined for eternity, but definitely eat the carrots from here. They're very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, they're up against it over in the UK as well with all of that as well. But yeah, I mean, this is the agenda, isn't it? They want to dumb people down. They want to make people stupid, which the offshoot is that they're compliant. They can't think at all, let alone critically. And so that was always the plan. And yeah, no more so than in the States where you are. So
yeah. Yeah, and often, especially lately, I've been looking at the UK and feeling so bad for you and Canada and a lot of these places that I think, especially in the United States, we associate with, a similar type of culture and a similar type of freedom. And then we see just how tyrannical, even more so than here in many ways. And it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been living in Mexico for 2 years. I went back at the start of the lockdown, when they locked down here, because, well, I knew straight away it was BS. Yeah. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do what they want me to do, whatever that may be. And I knew that there was going to be a poison dart at some point. And so I was like, oh, what do I do? And so I thought, well, at least if I go back to the UK, at least I know how the police will be there. Like, I don't really want to be stuck in a Mexican prison.
Yeah.
And at least that maybe I might have some small rights because I'm a citizen. So I went back. And oh my God, it was so bad. I mean, you couldn't even get your hair cut. I mean, it was surreal. I mean, I landed in Heathrow Airport. Heathrow Airport is like one of the busiest airports in Europe, if not the world. It was like a graveyard. It was absolutely surreal. And then I had to get a taxi to where I was going. And again, one of the busiest roads in Europe, the M25, there was barely a car on it. I mean, I've been stuck in traffic jams for 4 hours on that road.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just like some kind of movie that I'd just been thrown into. I mean, I know it was the same for everyone, but at that point, no one was really travelling, right? Everyone was stuck. Everyone was in their homes, like looking out at the curtains. And that was when it all kicked off. Like the whole world was in their homes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was back for a few months, and it was just like, no, I don't care what goes down in Mexico. If the worst comes to the worst, and I have to, if I die, then I'm going to die in the sun.
Yeah.
with breadcrumbs of freedom, because there is a bit more freedom over here. So yeah, I mean, obviously I've got a lot of friends. My family are over there. It was the first place where they've rolled out the poison dart, and we know what's going on with that. So, but there's also a big pushback. I mean, there is. I mean, I think last I heard there was 2 million people in the last march. I know marches
Yeah.
always have the biggest effect, but it just shows that there is a movement going on there. It's been going on for about 10 years. More and more people are starting to wake up. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I stopped organizing and going to protests because I realized like we're not actually changing anything here. But I did also realize and do still recognize that part of a lot of good that comes from it is the spiritual aspect. Actually, all these people get to look around and remember, oh yeah, I'm not alone and I'm not crazy, and that feels really good. And then now it's empowering, and now you can be more courageous and move forward with a little bit more reality. uh, then they would like us to believe that we're very strange and we're on the outskirts and we're alone, and that's disempowering. And so I do like that aspect of it, and it is very exciting to see. And sometimes they do seem to have an effect, so who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought protesting is a kind of a form of begging. It's a little bit like petitions, It's like, oh, please stop doing this to us, when
Yeah.
we just stop doing it to ourselves, right? It's like we're all out protesting when really we just have to say no. um, and this is the point, we can blame the 1%, the Illuminati, the whatever you want to call them, but really it's really us doing it to ourselves. We're the ones that are taking the snake oil. We're the ones that are, have this blind belief in authority, and the need that we need like some kind of corrupt politician in a suit to tell us how to live our life and what to do. And like, I mean, really, when you think about it, we're kind of like children,
Yeah.
consciously we're children. And the whole belief in authority is huge. If we could just lay that one to rest overnight, I mean, imagine if everyone woke up in the morning and just thought, well, actually, government is just an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Actually, I'm not going to do what they say anymore. I mean, this would be over. We wouldn't even have to be doing podcasts like this, So it's such a simple thing, but just such a stretch for so many people, for so many reasons. Psychologically, we have this kind of Stockholm syndrome mentality that's running through our psyche. We have savior programs, which we see a lot in the New Age, especially, where people are looking to a leader, quote unquote, or a politician to come save them, to sort their lives out. We have people not wanting to take responsibility for their own lives. It's much easier for them to put their responsibilities in the hands of these people, and the list goes on. And when you weigh all that up, and people just look at it and think, no, it's just much easier for me to do what I'm told. And of course, they have the idea that these people care about them and they love them, and they care about their health and all this stuff. And well, they're going to find out the hard way. And the more and more this goes on, I do feel that maybe there's some kind of like natural selection going on. And because the truth is there. It takes 2 seconds to look into now. There's enough people speaking out about it. It's been that way for about 3 or 4 years now, where, if you can't see it by now, is there any hope for you? And I think maybe in some kind of weird, warped, distorted way, there's like, maybe these people are going to out themselves, and then maybe we will be left with a world where if enough of us do push back, they can't get this agenda pushed through, and maybe we can create something new. So, but not the new Earth where
Yeah.
in the new age you just sit under a tree, sing Kumbaya,
You're just
and
like
then yeah
transported.
we're all in 5D without having to lift a finger. So um, so yeah, it's the solutions are so simple, but it's getting people to, you know, to care enough, I think.
Yeah, to do it. People are so depressed and apathetic too. And again, like you listed all these reasons why and all of these traps that have been set, and it makes sense why people have fallen into it. But I kind of tend to agree with you on that. You know, if they haven't gotten it by now, what will it actually take? And if you're choosing this, then you're choosing fear, you're choosing apathy, and you're choosing no self responsibility. Then I mean, you chose that. Like for a
Yeah,
while, you know, we all had to go through the sort of grief of letting go of these people, and it's our friends and our family, and you know, and
yeah,
then I went through some pretty severe anger where I was like, what's wrong with you? You're ruining the world. And then I had to just come back to that, like, you know, who am I? This is your choice, spiritually, physically, all of that. It's your choice, and you chose that. And that's sad for
absolutely.
me, but that's what
Yeah.
you want.
And I think all you can do is really look yourself in the mirror and say, I spoke up when it was necessary. I put the information out there, and I upheld my part of the bargain, basically. And as long as you can do that, I think you can rest easy at night. But then, like as you say, it's down to the people to take that on board or not. And yeah, a lot of it, psychologically, a lot of it is down to self-love,
Yeah.
self-care, self-respect. You know, like none of these rules make sense, and we know politicians lie, and we know that none of the stats make up. We're not seeing dead people around on the streets. We're not seeing them being carted off from different houses and homes in the middle of the night. It's like, it's pretty clear we're not in a pandemic. So, um, but yeah, it's, and also I think that there's this kind of weird schism going on where I think we've been a slave species for so long, we've been bullied for so long that it's almost, we identify that, and we're kind of being bullied now by being told what we can do, when we can do it, when we can go out, and it's almost like people kind of are drawn to that, like some kind of perversion or something. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of psychological disorders which are making people act out, and then you add to that entities that are working through people, and you get into the metaphysical and all the AIs that people have got, in their heads from all
Yeah.
the chemicals that are being sprayed, and I mean it's absolutely under attack, all of
It's
us.
when you think about it in that level, it's kind of amazing that any of us are still awake, and it really makes me wonder, you know. And for me, I feel like that's a spiritual choice that we made, or you know, a spiritual strength that we found, or something like that. And um, you know, this idea that you said, where you know, it's easier to go along, it's easier to be told what to do, that a lot of people think. This is the part that really bothers me, is I don't think they have understood how it's not actually, and how your soul actually is never going to, it is eventually going to get over it, but it's going to take how long, and it's going to take how much work, and it's going to weigh you down how deeply, and that is like never going to be worth it. And that's what I wish, if I could just like have a magic wand and like put into people's heads, with that awareness of like that you have a soul and that you're choosing to subvert it and give it
Yes,
away, you know, and empty yourself out. And like that's crazy to me. That's
yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, people's souls are being bought way too easily as well, But yeah, we're under massive bombardment, and I like to turn it on its head. I mean, energetically, obviously, I do energy stuff as well, and I mean, just the hijacking through that alone, you just sometimes I think, wow, how are we even like functioning to any kind of level with all of this stuff that's attached and that's working through us. And but really, when you spin it on its head, I just think, well, it's because we're so incredibly powerful. We are incredible in terms of how powerful we are. You know, we're huge generators, batteries, basically, is what we are. And they need us. They need us to survive, essentially. So it's important to look at it that way, because you can get too downhearted. You can think, well, you know, what hope is there? They're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this, they're doing that. But they're doing all that because they know damn well how powerful we are. They have to do all this to keep us down. And obviously in these times, there's that kind of natural awakening that's going up, and we're stepping more and more into our power. And you know, there's a lot of us that are leaving those old belief systems behind, and we're becoming uncontrollable, both on a physical 3D level and etherically. You know, we're moving up, so to speak. But exactly, we just, if only we could. That's the other thing. I'd love people to just wake up in the morning and realize the belief in authority and the belief in how truly wonderful and powerful that they really are. And it's kind of a cosmic joke, because most people walk around on a day-to-day basis feeling not worthy, not good enough, for different reasons. And I think there's like a collective mental schism where that applies. So, but it's just the opposite. It's just another huge inversion. We know they invert everything, where they've got us to buy into this fact that I'm just me, what can I do? I can't change anything, I can't make an impact, I'm just one person. And they've also got us to believe that we're this kind of like bacteria that needs wiping out. There's too many of us. We're like this dirty, you know, we're like dirty rats. We need to be extinguished, right? And they're the ones that are going to do it. They're going to decide who lives and who dies. And so we're constantly being bombarded with this, you know, we're not good enough, we're not worthy. And I think that just plays out in what's going on here, because I mean, you speak to some people, and even like awake people, they'll go, yeah, there's too many of us on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, really? Have you ever flown over just even the UK, which is a small country, field after field after field after field? No, the cities are overpopulated because they want everyone in the cities, but the actual world is not overpopulated.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was driving through Canada a few years ago, and I would go, I don't even know how many hundreds of miles, and literally not see a sign of humanity except the road I was on. There's no lights, there's no like power lines, there's no cars driving by me. It's just endless trees. And I'm like, overpopulated my ass. Like, there are so many things that point to this lie, you know. And it was like that, and when I heard of source water as never having been taught to me as what the part of the water cycle, and it was like blew my mind. Like, wait, they like hid this from us all throughout childhood. How many times do we learn of the water cycle in school? Not once did they talk about source water. Not once did they talk about the water just spewing out of the earth nonstop for, as far as we know, ever, but at least hundreds of years documented, never slowing down. Like, where is that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it crazy that they've managed to get us to buy into the idea that they bottle the water for us and then we buy it, right? I mean, just that concept alone is just bonkers. It's just barking mad. But billions of people, we've all bought into it, and it's crazy. You look around nature, like, you know, I see it was raining heavy the other day. We had a storm, and all the frogs were out. I could hear them croaking. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, those guys are not having to worry about paying their rent or paying for food, or do you know what I mean? It's like we're the only species that pays to exist. And I mean, even in some of the terminology, like to earn a living. So what is an urn? Well, an urn is something that you get put into when you're dead, right? Ashes. And to earn a living, so to die to live, it's all a scam. It's just one big scam. The whole system, the whole thing, really. And you know that, your listeners will know that, but still, it's funny pointing it out.
Yeah, and it takes so much to pierce through it and start to see it in a different way, because it's thick and it's heavy, the amount of conditioning, and it's almost 100% of people bought into it. So it's very rare, it's not, hopefully less and less rare, but it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to see through it, and it's rare to see through it and wake up.
Yeah.
You were talking about the savior programming that we get too, and it's in every movie, it's in every book, and it's always this person who's very special and has got these skills that no one else has. And I wonder how you feel about this as a fellow spiritual. We both do kind of cleansings and blessings and retrievals and spiritual work for people, and I always try to get people to understand. For me, at least, I'm like, I'm not special at all, And in my novels, in my fictional novels, my characters are not special at all. They're just like the most normal, flawed people ever. They just so happen to have like made certain choices to be in certain spots and understood their power. But that power is a power that everybody has. And my main goal in spiritual work is to try to get other people to take that power up. Like, I want you to be exactly what I'm, doing. I want you to do it too. I want everyone to do it. If we all did that, if we all understood our power and really lived that, they couldn't do any of this anymore, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm the same, with my work. The only difference is that I've spent 6 years practicing,
right,
and learning and learning and learning, and like a craft, like a good electrician. It's always, I always use that terminology, and the fact that, you call a good electrician out, he's going to be able to fix things because he's been training, right?
Yes.
So, but of course, we're not taught. Like the work that I do, and I don't know, I'm not entirely sure what you do, but in terms of psychic abilities and remote viewing, and even the fact that we're energetic beings, we're not taught this at school. So we go into adulthood, unless you're in the deepest, darkest parts of the web where we hang out, probably, you're not gonna find out that we even have these gifts. And but when you realize that we do, I think that we can do it all: teleportation, levitation, telepathy. I think we can do it all. It's just they've been, lost or buried, or obviously they don't want us to know these things. So, that's the key. It's like a muscle. If you don't, certainly with psychic abilities, if you don't use them, if I don't use my right arm, it's going to get weak, right? So it's the same thing. But if we could all just start doing that, we could really make great change.
And I think it starts with that understanding, right? Like you said, we both have however many years of experience, and teachers that have, I'm sure you're maybe similar, that teachers have helped you along the way, and you've learned certain whatever. But aside from that, it isn't everyone, and unless like maybe vaccine damage or some other things and too much glyphosate. There's, I'm sure, a lot of obstacles for a lot of people too. And I think some people are just generally gifted in some areas, just like anything. Like you might be really into math, whatever. So there's all those things. But the more people realize that, just the understanding, just the belief and understanding that, like, oh yeah, I am a spiritual being, and I can choose to work that muscle more and more and more as life goes on, you don't have to, but you can. You don't have to think that someone else is super special and you'll never be there,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure, there's certain people that are more in tune, but it can all be learned. My own sort of abilities were learned. They didn't come natural to me. They came through practice, but some people, they're literally born with them. These people are often quite targeted, actually, in the direct, because obviously they present a bit of a challenge for the matrix. So they can have some difficult starts in life, and different things happen to them. But we all have the potential, but we also all have our individual gift sets, and you'll be strong in an area that I won't be strong in, and this is the tapestry of life. This is what makes it all so interesting. And what they want is they want everyone thinking the same, having the same belief systems, the same opinions. You even look at things like fashion. What's fashion? It's where everyone dresses the same. So they want everyone the same, and this ties in with the whole New Age deception of destroying the ego. That's a big one that they try and promote, whereby we need to destroy something that's an inherent part of us. I mean, you think about a world without ego, you'd have no art, you'd have no creativity, you'd have no one making music, no writers, no one would want to do anything.
You wouldn't even
So,
make yourself food. You would just starve to death and die.
yeah, exactly, right? So it's yeah. I mean, you can be stuck in ego, and you can have an unhealthy ego, but you certainly, definitely need an ego to operate and function in this reality. And they want to destroy that. Why do they want to destroy that? Because if you take out the individual personality of a person, you take the fire out of their belly. Basically,
Yeah.
you kind of by proxy taking the soul away, because that expression of the soul is partly through the ego. And they want to destroy that in the new age as well as the mind. They want to destroy the mind. If you listen to quote unquote gurus like Muji and some of these what's the other, Eckhart Tolle,
Yeah.
these people, they're all about, oh well, don't get stuck in the mind. Well, why is that? Well, if you start to think, you might actually question what we're telling you. And if you do that, then you're in the mind. So they want everyone wet lettuces, and yeah, the individual expression. The more I think of it, is more is really really vital that we do come into ourselves. Really, I remember when I first quote unquote woke up, and people say you changed. Like we changed. I don't know when you woke up, but I have friends and family. You changed, like you changed so much, and I honestly don't recognize the person I used to be. I mean, I don't even know that person. Really, I really don't. That person was the person I was. He just thought the same. He didn't realize his own power. He didn't know. He believed in all these, in authority and government. That person died. It was really weird, and you probably can relate. So, yeah, they want people in that kind of dead soul kind of, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, something did die, but it wasn't you and it wasn't your ego. It was
No,
the illusion.
yeah, exactly.
And
You
that
come alive.
yes, you come alive, exactly. That idea too of that mental, this is like a hang up for so many people, and we do a lot of meditations on the channel for various days or times, I don't know, numerological things, just whatever feels like a good day to get together and meditate. And usually we're like focusing on building up our power and building up our belief in ourselves and things like that. Um, but a lot of people will say things like, oh, I can't meditate. I've tried so many times, I can't do it. And I'm always like, okay, why? Like, what makes you think that you can't? And it's often that, oh, well, my thoughts keep going. I'm like, great, let your thoughts go. Who cares? You're going to think. Like, I don't know where that obsession with becoming thoughtless comes from, but people think that. They think you have to breathe in really specific ways. And all of these can be tools, and you can focus on those and work with them. But it's not like the only way. I've even had people say like, oh, well, I can't close my eyes and sit there for that long because I get like dizzy and whatever. I'm like, you don't have to close your eyes either. You can just sit calmly and just be with your body and your breath. That's more than most people ever get to. That alone is a lot, actually. It can be.
Yeah, well, there's this obsession of getting out of yourself, isn't there? I mean,
what do you think that's all about?
Well, whether it's meditation or connecting to some kind of angelic being, or I call them false white light beings because they're basically masquerading. But we have this. Again, it goes back to like savior programs, and I think a lot of people have had a lot of trauma as well, in different ways. So I think a lot of people use escapism as a kind of, I don't know, a plaster to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
And you find it with in spirituality with these kind of constantly searching for spiritual highs. You see it in the the plant medicine arena.
Yeah.
People like taking ayahuasca 15, 16 times, like constantly trying to get out of themselves, trying to escape themselves. And I think it's very prominent in these quote unquote spiritual movements, new age movements, where there's this obsession that we've got to connect. I mean, I've said before many a time, I don't even like the term higher self because it implies that there is something outside of you that
True.
has a higher knowing. I refer to the inner self.
I love that.
Yeah, when I connect with when people say, well, who are you connecting? I mean, I've had people that I've said, look, don't connect with Archangel Michael. He's basically a demon. He's masquerading, right? And they're like, oh, but who can I connect to then? And I'm like,
Yourself.
yourself.
Yeah.
Why do you need to connect with an angel? Like, what are they gonna do? Like, you're basically playing Russian roulette, because the information that gets channeled is going to be very, very questionable at best. It's just like people are just so desperate to, I don't know, try and connect with something outside of themselves, and just to sit with yourself and connect with yourself and just tap into your power, your genius, your creativity. I mean, we're basically an infinite amount of creative energy that's working through our vessels. I mean, why the hell do you need to go and connect with Archangel Michael? Archangel Michael's nothing compared to that. And but it comes with understanding who we really are, and remembering who we are. We've forgotten who we are, on a very deep level. We've forgotten who we are, which is just a ball of energy, creative energy, incarnate in a body for a while, that's been trapped in this matrix for probably quite a few, maybe hundreds of thousand lifetimes,
Yeah.
trying to get out, right? So yeah, this whole idea that we've got to try and get outside of ourselves. We need to really leave that, especially, I'm calling for a new kind of, I call it streetwise spirituality, and I feel like part of that has to be, let's connect inwards. Let's not connect outwards. Let's connect inwards, and then see where we go from there, and empower ourselves, because you're not going to get empowered, or it will be a false empowerment, false sense of empowerment. So I think more and more people need to focus on connecting inwards rather than trying to get out of their body and going through these layers in meditation, which again is kind of like a spiritual high. People are seeking spiritual highs, and I mean, I've worked with people. I mean, you can open yourself up. I work with a girl. She used to do all these 7-day retreats, and she ended up in a mental hospital. I'm not saying that happens to everyone, but for me now. I'm like, if anything's super popular, probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
I don't like yoga. The archetypes, the positionings. I mean, my work triggers a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is so ingrained in it, and it's been promoted. And I'm not saying that there's not benefits, physical benefits.
Right.
I know, right? But energetically, when you're making serpent energy poses, or kundalini poses, and cobras, and I saw one yoga class once, and the woman was sticking her tongue out like a demon, and I was like, well, this is not for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When they give us something freely, or it's out there so freely, and it's super popular, very minimal, I think we should question it. And then there's that resonance, isn't there? And people say, well, how do we know truth? And well, it's a resonance. Where we've come unstuck, especially in the New Age movement, is people want to go with what feels good rather than what feels true.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff in the New Age movement, it feels good. They're getting these spiritual highs. I mean, who doesn't want to believe in our angels and friendly aliens that are waiting to come down and save us, and all this, like Mother Ayahuasca and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean, that feels good. It feels gooey inside, but where's it getting us, really? I mean, most people that I work with the energy work, they've come from the New Age. They've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on angel activations and light language and all this stuff, and they're feeling like crap. They're feeling like crap, and we're at the point now where just because something is old doesn't mean that it's necessarily true or beneficial. I mean, we've had all this stuff for years, chakras, yoga, all that stuff, we're more enslaved than we've ever been, right? So, where has all of this actually got us? And just because it's old or traditional, I don't necessarily correlate to it being true. I think where we are now in this point in history, everything needs to be on the table to be questioned.
Literally everything. Yes. Well, you're in good company here because it's literally the sub whatever it's called catchphrase. I don't know what it's called. The thing I end every episode with is look inside first, and I always tell people it's not just a trite little saying that I like came up with. This is like my way of living, and all of the spiritual truths that I've come to have been through direct experience, which is it's coming from inside of you, and and even when I talk about things like allies or guides or higher self, I actually love inner self, and I'll steal that from you if that's okay with you.
Go for it. The more people promoting that, the better.
Awesome. And but I always say too, this is to me the same as talking about psychological or archetypal, symbols, right? So if I'm talking about like, I don't know, we could take any example, like an eagle, let's say, right? I never have at least felt like an actual eagle being is like here talking to her, whatever, but it's that whatever our minds are associating with that energy and symbolism is what's trying to come through and be understood to our conscious mind, right? So, and excuse me, that alignment of the spiritual and the psychological and the emotional to me are all the same thing, and our mind speaks in symbols. And so these things make sense to me in that way. And I think that also triggers some people. But that's cool. Like you said, we should question everything. And especially if something triggers you, you should ask yourself why. And even that higher self, inner self thing, like, didn't trigger me. It was like, aha, that's even better. Like, thank you for this new tool. And one of the things I think might trigger people, but I really want to hear more about from you, is this idea of moon worship and why we shouldn't get into it.
Okay. Well, the moon, right? Okay, so basically, the moon is basically an artificial. It was basically brought here and it acts as an amplifier. So the matrix is coming from Saturn, right? That's where it's being projected from.
And this is why we get all this Saturn worship and second sun.
The symbology with the Nyctic and even like weddings where people are wearing the hats which look like Saturn, and wedding rings, and it's all we live in a Saturn or Satan as well. It's all based around that. And so the matrix is projected from Saturn, and then it hits the moon. The moon acts as an amplifier, and the matrix program is obviously keeping everyone in a dense state of consciousness, very hard for them to see through the veils, hard for them to get out of the mind control. So it's kind of holding us down. So it's amplified by the moon. And so the other thing that the moon does as well is it plays on the emotional bodies of the planet. So we have waves because of the moon, right? So so just like the females on the planet, the Earth is feminine as well. She's the true divine feminine, not the moon that we've been told.
Yeah.
And so the waters of the planet is constantly being pulled and in turmoil because of the moon's pull. And the same goes for the women on the planet as well. Their emotional bodies are constantly in a state of flux, right? Way more than they probably should be if the moon wasn't there. And their menstrual cycles are often very problematic and extreme, really.
Right.
And so this object that again in the New Age is so loved is actually causing us a lot of problems. And again, you look at the terminology like lunatic, it's in the word. Apparently, there's more arrests and murders and rapes at full moon.
Hospitals are fuller.
Yeah, exactly. So, the moon really is another thing that we should kick to the curb.
And how does that fit with or maybe I don't know if you know, but I'm just wondering as you're talking about this about the electric universe theory, which I'm not 100% um informed about. I'm pretty ignorant about it, but I like the idea. I want to know more about it. It sounds cool. I wonder if it works in conjunction with that still. You know, if we can still have the electric universe theory and the artificial moon brought to amplify Saturn idea together, or if you know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what you mean by the electrical universe theory.
Okay.
Actually.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe if you want to go look into it, we can talk about it another time.
yeah, I'm looking for it, but I mean, yeah, it's and there's a book called Who Built the Moon, which is worth reading, and some of the stats in there. I mean,
Yeah.
the moon, where it's the moon to be positioned where it actually is, at like the odds of that being where it is are like billions to one. Like it shouldn't be there. So there's so many anomalies that don't add up just on a logical side. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the short version anyway.
It's a good set of questions at least to, you know, especially we do a lot of meditations just full moon, new moon, whatever. Here we go.
Oh yeah.
Uh
Well, see what you're doing. What's happening is people are doing these moon rituals and moon worship, and they're basically feeding the matrix. They're feeding the moon matrix. So it's basically giving it more energy. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's also a big trigger for a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
Particularly females as well. There's an affinity with females and the moon.
There's
and
this whole magical idea and
yeah,
like crystals and like yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because the moon is connected and pulling on the emotional bodies. I think it's like a distorted connection that because when you look in the night sky, the moon can look. I mean, I can't stand it because I know what it is, but I guess without awareness, like you look at it, yeah, it can look quite pretty, but it's really. Yeah, whenever these rituals are taking place, all that's happening is just the moon matrix is getting more energy from it. So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll just say we never worship or even connect with the moon during these meditations. We just do them on those days, and I usually guide people just to empower again themselves on some of the good ideas that are associated that some people think are associated with those times. So, but I'm kind of safe like that with everything I do. I'm like, okay, well, we could do it on this day. People are into it, but like, we're not gonna like invite. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I also think it's to do with the false white light when you die as well. I think
I've heard this.
Something to do with the soul trap, the tunnel, the fake tunnel.
Yeah.
There's something going on with that as well. Whether or not people are seeing the moon when there's the tunnel, I don't know.
Yeah. I tried to get to the bottom of it spiritually. I wrote a little thing about how we used to wake up in the middle of the night when we had no false lights, and we used to have this period of time, and it was kind of a very meditative time, a deep inward time, and a quiet time. And how, you know, we developed artificial lights, and that kind of cut that off, and now we sleep through the night. We don't have that anymore. And I connected it with how moths are also drawn to the moon. They're drawn to the moonlight, and all these artificial lights distract them. And so I was trying to figure out, like, what is it about artificial light and the moon and being drawn and being removed from our natural state of looking inward. So I was getting there, but I just don't really, I don't know. I can't settle on it. I've heard all these ideas for so long, and I'm just like, maybe it's a soul trap. Maybe it's not. I don't know if I'm gonna know in this life for sure, but the safest thing is to not invite that energy into yourself and to still just look inside first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for me, it just goes back to there's too many coincidences with it. Like I say,
it is really weird.
Even in the language, lunatic, lunacy. I mean, it's telling you in the very language that this thing is not here for our benefit.
And that who made the moon, or well, that book that you were mentioning,
who built the moon?
Who built the moon is really.
Yeah.
I didn't read it. I heard someone summarize it, but they went through all the things, and I was like, "This is insane!" Like you can't, like you said, you can't really deny there's something really weird about the moon when you go through all of those data points that don't make sense.
No, definitely not.
So what? I guess we don't have a lot of time. But I did want to touch too on the God is a demon idea, and that
Another trigger.
yeah, but it's also very interesting to think about, especially the traditional religious figure of this God being seems like such an asshole. If he created this place, like, why is it such a shithole? I mean,
Yeah.
I love the earth. I'm not saying I don't, but you know what I mean. So I like getting into this idea. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the surface of it. Yeah, why does this? I mean, why does this God require its creations to worship Him? You know, it's like I've said before. It's like praying to your mum for giving birth to you. It's like nobody does that, right? And your mum wouldn't expect you to pray to her.
Yeah.
So who is this God that needs all his creations to worship him? Sounds very insecure to me. Sounds very narcissistic to me. You know, who is this God that, you know, wants people to get up at 4 a.m. and pray? And it just, again, it's like, what, it doesn't make even logical sense. But yeah, I mean, the long and the short of it is that we're living in a false God matrix whereby there's this God, this I refer to as an entity, whether it's actually demonic. It's obviously not benevolent, and it's acting out. It wants our worship. It wants our prayer. It thinks it's in charge. It's feeding on us. It's got all these false white light beings working for him in terms of the angels and all of that stuff. And yeah, it's just another manipulation. Billions of people around the world feeding this narcissistic God and giving him all this worship, and with all the weird rituals, with the breaking the bread and the blood, drinking the blood. I mean, hang on a minute.
Yeah, gross.
You're telling me that's come from some kind of benevolence. Yeah, so...
Well, and it's interesting. There's all this like sacrifice this animal to me and put its blood here and whatever. And if you look at a lot of old magic rituals, they require blood for the spiritual force to feed off of to present itself, to be able to manifest in our dimension or whatever. And so why is God needing that blood? I thought he was God. Like, can't he just come be here if that's his thing? It's another word that I use, and I say God a lot, but I always try to clarify, like, I'm not talking about a dude or a being. I'm talking about that force, whatever you want to call it, that's everywhere all the time, period. That thing. Call that something. God's a word you could use if you want to. But
exactly. I mean, when you pray, what is pray? Like a lion eats its prey. You're giving your... Again, it's just another way this matrix is siphoning people's energy. Yeah. And of course, it's just masquerading, like our politicians do. They masquerade in a way that they make out they're on our team and they're going to make all these changes. And same thing's going on in the astral with the light beings. It's as above, so below. It's the same manipulating force that's working through the 3D puppets. So, and they're very, very clever. They are so conniving and cunning, and they're great actors and actresses. And it's the same with the light beings. They'll tell you that they know you better than you know yourself. If you've got a big ego, they'll pander up to your ego. Oh, you're brilliant. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. If you've got insecurities, they'll tell you what you want to hear, big you up, and then they'll use you as a vessel to get more people hooked in and what have you. So
it's absolutely true. This is why I always tell people too, like, some people are like, oh, I wish I could da-da-da. I'm like, I don't know if you do, right? Like, these things are ancient and all-knowing. They know your mind. They know what, like you said, better than you know yourself. They know the thoughts that you aren't even aware you're having as you're having them. Like, they know literally everything. It's pretty dangerous no matter how you cut it. But yeah, anything that's disempowering like that, right? Like, this God is saying, like, I'm your savior and you have to do things this way. For some reason, I made sex really enjoyable and you have to do it to survive, but you should never enjoy it. Like, what kind of a fucked up trap is that? Like, you know?
And it's we're talking about savior programs. It's the ultimate savior. It's the king of savior programs.
Yeah.
It's the absolute king.
Like, you literally have to do this.
So we go way beyond this false God matrix, way beyond, way more powerful. But they need us to be hooked into that that's the empowering thing. When you say God is a demon, it's like, what? Oh my God, I'm unsubscribing from your. I can't believe it. Yeah. But they don't listen to the end part where it's, well, actually, you've got God working through you. You're a fractal of God. Like, that's way much better. Way much better.
And wouldn't you want to know that? Like, but it's another part of that is that when you choose to understand that and believe that and know that, you now are much more responsible too. You can no longer take the easy ways out. You can no longer shuffle off, oh, someone else is going to take care of that. And so it is a little bit scary for people.
Yeah, I guess, looking at it from that point of view, it's, if they're not at the point where they want to take responsibility and decisions on their own, then it doesn't matter if they've got that working through them or not.
So everybody listening, remember, the most important thing is to learn self-responsibility and want it and enjoy it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, a few more questions before I let you go. Where do you hope things go from here? As crazy as the world is.
What I hope is that we can bring this, and I'm confident we can bring it down. I mean, we're going to lose a lot of people. I mean, that's pretty clear. There's going to be a lot of people that over the next few years that have taken the snake oil. So there are going to be less people here, but I'm hopeful there's enough people that are awake and aware. What we need to do really is there's what's happened. I spoke about this in another video the other day. We've a lot of us woken up, and then we've fallen into another layer of the matrix, the New Age movement, this fake spiritual scene. So what we need is an awakening from the awakening, because I think there's so many people that are still trapped, and they're not awake at all. They're still trapped in the next layer of the matrix.
Agreed.
Which is so clever how they've made it. They've made it so appealing to people. Because of course, when you wake up and you find out about all the paedophilia and they want to kill us and all this, and then you've got Archangel Michael and his crew waiting there. You're, oh, thank God for that.
Yeah, I can give my authority away again.
Yeah, exactly. And this all sounds so fluffy and lovely, and this is the truth now. I found the truth, but it's not. It's just another layer. It's another deception. So what we really need to do, and this is such a small community that it's kind of scary in a way, is that we need more and more people to wake up from the New Age, from this fake spiritual scene, from the next layer of the matrix, and really connect with that spark within, and truly self-realize who and what they are. That's where we need to go, and I think we can do it. I think it's not going to be easy, but I'm confident we can do it. How it's going to happen or when, I don't know, but I think there's enough ripples in the ocean now.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I love that. It's definitely a challenge, and it's definitely a beautiful goal at the same time. Everybody can do it if they choose to. And can you share, just for people, there's links below for anybody, but just where, if they're listening and, they just want to hear it, where people can find you, what the best ways to connect with you are, and all that. Yeah,
well, I've got a YouTube channel, Tony Sayers. So that's where most of my work goes up on that. My website is transcendingtimes.org, and on there I offer my healing work, different other stuff there. My books are on there as well. I'm on Facebook, but I'm banned for 30 days.
Of course.
I'm on BitChute, Library, MeWe. I think that's about it. I lose track of all the...
I know.
I had to change so many times. So, but yeah, YouTube and it's probably the main.
This is what, if any of you out there have been to rogueways.org, you go over to Transcending Times and it's seriously, it's like the first page is all of our sort of like writings. It's like anti-AI and anti-like sexualizing children. And then there's another page for our spiritual healing offers. There's just, it's so similar. It's weird. But I love it. And I know that people have really enjoyed you, and I'm sure they'll be going there soon. And I always like to give people a chance to just share any final thoughts you want to leave people with, or ideas, or, things that you want people to think about.
Final thoughts.
It sounds ominous, like, what are your final thoughts?
The final thought is just remember who you are. Remember who you are. And and connect with the inner self.
Inner self. I love it. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to the cord-cutting Tony Sayers. Tony, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight on Rogueways.
You're welcome. Lovely to be here.
Awesome. Few walk the middle, while many claim to. Many find critique a tool of identifying and rejecting what is not good, true, or beautiful to them, but many fall into the trap of believing that that means that they've found the ultimate truth. Remember that the more sure you are that something is absolutely any given way, the less likely you are to be correct. Hold truth in one hand, always waiting for the other hand to fill with the truth that will replace it. Your ego calls loud to demand that you have arrived. Don't buy it. Arriving means that you now live in permanent stasis and stagnancy. Flow is a key aspect of life, and you are alive. So keep traveling, and as you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
I heard the man, they at it again, and I'm out to tell the truth once more. That's right. It's on the cracking, unknown in the house. APOGZ, that's right. Hitting the stereo near you. Truth is the best thing, and it's on. Yo, I once thought that I wanted to get Denver on track, but there's something more bigger than that. Something lurking, waiting to blow this state right off the map. A hidden agenda related to September. Doves carved up on the wall next to the highway. Up in the concrete, while rolling home next to where I stay. With state's destruction, like Key Martin malfunction. While NORAD's in the mountain anticipating our next move. My heart's jumping and I'm like, fuck waiting. While crooked taxes are burning a hole in my pocket. With $1 bill in the pyramid that's watching. Instead of having a capstone on top of it, they have an eye with a fast surprise while you're flossing it. Greedy niggas jocking it, politics plotting it. So who you vote for really doesn't mean shit. So save your energy from being drained by the enemy. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, envisioning dreams of them chasing me. Skull and bones of Freemasonry, secret agencies with a plan to dominate all of man. Check the records at DIA, strange murals and paintings similar to the ones next to the highway. With pyramids and flames underneath them looking like they're about to fly away. I can't be tripping, but it sounds like I'm on acid. Most people slipping, taken below DIA, held captive in the near future, where they won't hesitate to reinstate new laws for a bigger cause. I'm talking about established civilian concentration camps, introducing the military's labor programs. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people. Expand your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness the belittlement of your people.
Feds ain't stretching the truth, the script that he's spitting is true. Pay attention to what's going on or it might happen to you. When it's happening to cellular communication monitor, behavior studied and controlled through chemicals bombing nerves. This word of Jesus ain't got anything to do with it, religious cynic, where experiments cage and lace in terms of accepting limits. Things they can't explain to the sky when I'm in the Rockies. Chakra systems limited due to the voltage overhead pipe. Mind control victims, slap clips and machine guns for recess. FCC will help us speak less, manipulate us through weak feel right non-fiction with the CIA trying to kill me filthy. Talking about the underground facility at DIA, no one feels that place laced with hints. Notice whenever I return home, lack some references in a new world Masonic capstone. Employ in Area 51 workers to build, and I don't mean to rant. In the face of an emergency, it doubles as a FEMA camp. The reaction, solution, trickery, repeated through history. NORAD's listening in, using technology, tracking where you piss. I'm not even paranoid or just facing the fact. Better watch what you say, it's another day under the Patriot Act.
Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness up a little bit of your people. Extend your mind just a little bit, forget the little shit before you witness up a little bit of your people.
The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else. Success for people like this is measured in terms of money, which they then translate into power. Corruption and violations of the Constitution. secret societies, the push for one world government, I'd like to get corruption and violations of the Constitution. The idea is to bring people to the point where they are helpless, passive, and unable to assert their own creative power to form anything else.